What's the most mean and heartless thing you've ever done? 1. The guy who bullied me in high school started a rumor that I was gay. So I started hooking up with his sister. Ended up marrying her. Now I see him every Christmas. His parents love me to death. 2. My neighbor is an absolute bish from hell. The kind of person who gets joy out of making everyone else miserable. When my daughter was a baby, she would wait about 10 minutes after I closed the bedroom curtains and then start honking her car horn over and over. She knew exactly when my kid went down for her nap. So for revenge, I spent a year saving up rotten eggs, vinegar, milk, and potatoes in a container. Then I got a length of hose and a funnel, pushed the hose through the fence between our yards and under her floorboards since our houses are on stilts, and siphoned the disgusting sludge under her house. I hoped this smell would creep up through the cracks in the floor and drive her insane. And even if it didn't, it still made me feel pretty darn good. 3. I was on a road trip and stopped at a gas station to use the bathroom. The men's and women's bathrooms were in a separate little building with the door locked, so I got the key from the clerk, unlocked it, and did my thing. On my way out, some guy stormed in and yelled, "Where's the men's room?" I gotta take a dump. I pointed to the door and tried to hand him the key. He shouted, "Get out of my way, I don't have time for that," shoved past me, and went into the men's room. So I walked outside, locked the front door, returned the key to the clerk, and left. I still wonder how long he was stuck in there. 4. I set a guy's clothes on fire because he stole my weed. He wasn't wearing them. I just grabbed a bunch of his clothes, lit them up in a parking lot, and then left the shelter. 5. I had a guy key my coworker's car one night because she parked near the place he was renting. It was a public spot and he refused to accept that, even after security explained that anyone could park there, and it didn't belong to him just because he rented the place for a week. So he dragged his key all along the side of my coworker's car. She's way too nice, didn't say anything, and went home crying. The douchebag ran out and immediately parked his own car in that spot. So I went back late at night and spray painted huge neon pink D's all over the back of his Bentley. It was backed in perfectly so he wouldn't notice right away, but everyone driving behind him would. You get what you give. 6. When I turned 19, I asked my best friend at the time why he didn't wish me a happy birthday. He said it was because his dad had just died of cancer. I replied, "You couldn't spare 30 seconds to send a text?" He blocked me, and honestly, he was right to. That was 8 years ago, and it still bothers me how cold I was. I was in a bad place back then, but he didn't deserve that. 7. I hid my brother's cash and then completely forgot where I put it. He was still pissed when I told him. We finally found it almost a year later, which was a pretty great surprise. 8. I used to work as a bank cashier, and this horrible woman came in every week just to yell at us and talk down to us. One day, we had to mail her a letter with a stamped, addressed envelope. We all picked our noses and wiped it on the sticky part she would lick. I don't feel bad about it. 9. In 7th grade, I took a bunch of ketchup packets from a restaurant, folded them in half, and stuck them under the little bump on the toilet seat in the school bathrooms so they would burst all over the legs of whoever sat down. I still remember getting called into the principal's office. He was laughing his arse off about it, and then he suspended me for a week. Comment: How did you get caught? OP reply: I had a big mouth and told someone about it, and that person happened to be one of the ones who got covered in ketchup. Guess I learned my lesson. 10. In 5th grade, I farted in class and blamed it on the Chinese exchange student who didn't speak any English, because she wouldn't be able to argue back. If you're still watching, means you're enjoying the stories. Subscribe so you can look forward to more stories like these. Now on to 11. When I was a teenager, some friends and I were bored, so we went to a party store and bought a bunch of silly string. Then we drove around town doing drive-bys, spraying people and cars and speeding off right after. We hit one girl straight in the face, even though she had bullied me really badly for years. I still remember the look on her face when we pulled up, laughing and waving, and then blasted her in the eyes with a full can and took off while she was clawing at her face. It still messes with me 20 years later. I felt awful about it back then, and I still feel awful about it now. 12. Whether you believe in curses or not, I once cursed an ex-friend to be infertile until she apologized to me. 13. I kept messing with a friend who has OCD by moving the couch pillows so he would fix them. I did this around 20 times. I basically decided it was my job to push him until he had a breakdown. 14. I made fun of a developmentally delayed kid when I was in 3rd grade. I didn't know what that really meant, I just thought he was someone it was okay to make fun of. I still feel bad about it. 15. I stranded an ex really far from home by canceling a plane ticket. Lesson learned. Don't be a broke arse who bites the hand that feeds you, especially on a trip I paid for. 16. I told my ex-wife we were divorced before we actually were. She married her next ex-husband less than 24 hours later. When she started divorcing him, a few months after that, the state she had moved to arrested her for bigamy. She used her one phone call to ask me to send a notarized letter saying I had told her she was in the clear. I told her I'd take care of it. Still haven't gotten around to sending that letter. 17. I ghosted every one of my old friends. 18. I melted all of my abuser's ice cream and then refroze it so it turned into that nasty, grainy texture instead of being smooth. 19. I have memory issues, but what I do remember is someone throwing a mug at me. I grabbed it and threw it back and hit them in the knee. I didn't know there were rules about throwing things back after someone throws them at you. 20. I worked at an apartment complex and 2 little shid bags moved in and made everyone's life miserable. It all built up to one of them riding his bike across the street to the office and screaming that he was going to kill us all after we told them we were going to evict them for dealing drugs and fighting in the parking lot. An office assistant had been shot and killed earlier that year by an angry resident, so that really set me off. Maintenance wasn't even allowed to go into their apartment without an escort anymore, so I went with them the next time they called something in. When the maintenance guy left to go get a part, I took both of their toothbrushes, rubbed them thoroughly under the rim of their filthy toilet, and put them right back where they were. 21. I told a jerk who used to work for me that I would happily give him a good reference. I did not give him a good reference. 22. We had this customer who was that fake, passive-aggressive kind of nice. My coworker has a big scar across his arm from a logging accident. She asked him about it, he told her what it was from, and she replied with something like, "Oh, well, I hope you get the mental health help you need," clearly implying it was self-harm, even though he had just explained it wasn't. Anyway, she came in one day while I was on break, and my coworkers texted me, "She's here. Help." So I went in, rolled up my sleeves, and took her order. Right on schedule, she asked about my scars, since my arms are covered in them. I gave a vague answer like, "Oh, they're from when I was a kid." She made another comment implying they were self-harm scars, and I said, "Oh no, these aren't from self-harm. They're from when I was beaten as a child," in the exact same tone she uses. She turned white and ran out of the store. I had already told my coworker about my past, so he wasn't shocked, but he asked if I was worried I'd get in trouble. I said for what? Telling the truth. 23. I made my cousin believe she was deaf for a whole day. 24. I told my youngest brother I wished he had never been born because it meant us kids had to split a Slurpee 4 ways instead of 3. Now I look back and think, how poor were we that my parents couldn't buy more than 1 Slurpee? It was probably 1988, and I clearly remember them being 79 cents in the late 90s. But somehow, they could still afford a pack of Cool Milds each every day. Not that I'm bitter or anything. 25. My grandmother is one of the worst people on earth. She abused my mom and my uncles, who are all great people. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer in my 20s, she called me crying. But she never came to see me, never texted, nothing. But she had no problem going to church and crying to everyone there about how sad she was that her granddaughter was dying of cancer. One day she called me out of nowhere when I was in remission, and I was so angry I went straight for her. I told her she was a piece of shit for how she treated my mom, that she deserved to have her kids and grandkids never talk to her, that my mom was more of a mother than she ever was, and that she could go fuck herself now and forever. I said a lot of other things too. I refused to call her Nana, and only used her real name, which really upset her. She cried through the whole call. I don't regret it. I love my mom and my uncles, and she treated them like garbage. I even told her I hope she gets reincarnated so she can be abused in her next life, the same way she abused her kids. No regrets. 26. I told my half-sister she was only so bitchy because her dad was dead, and mine was still alive and actually loved me. I was 14, and I love her, but back then she was my older sister, whose whole personality was being rude and scoffing. 27. One time, I made a right turn without using my signal. 28. I stole a pack of cigarettes from someone in my festival camping group and then helped the whole camp look for them for an hour. 29. I took $200 out of my ex's wallet after he got falling down drunk and screamed at me because I wouldn't go to a local festival. I was recovering from pneumonia, and it was cold and raining. He used to give me money every weekend to help with bills, and he said he was going to stop, so I took it while he was passed out. 30. I used to bully a younger kid in high school because he was really annoying. A girl I was friends with kept encouraging me since he annoyed her too, and she was bored. Or maybe she had a crush on him and thought she was toughening him up. It was really shitty and there's no excuse for it, but after high school I managed to get back in touch with him, gave him a real apology, and bought him lunch to try to make up for it. He accepted my apology, and we were able to move on, and I'm really grateful for that because it had started to weigh on me. 31. I superglued my brother's nostrils shut while he was asleep because he stole my new hoodie. 32. I told a friend I didn't like her new haircut. Yeah, let's just stick with that answer. 33. My older brother and I hated each other in school and had a long tradition of pulling nasty pranks. At the worst point, I stole his big glass jug full of loose change, dumped it out, then carefully put all the coins back in layers with Caro syrup. He never noticed and just kept adding more coins like nothing was wrong. Every now and then, usually after he pissed me off, I'd sneak into his room, tip the jug on its side, and roll it around. Fast forward 4 years. We'd mostly grown out of the rivalry, and he suddenly needed that money for a down payment. When he tried to pour it out, the whole thing had basically turned into one solid brick of coins and syrup. I had totally forgotten I ever did it, so I was honestly shocked too. He blamed one of his friends, and still has no idea it was me. 34. I pissed on my neighbor's lawn. Reply. You were just adding nutrients to the dirt. You actually did them a favor. 35. Some teenage kid was talking shit to me, a middle-aged guy. I don't even remember why, but he was trying to roast me. I let him go on for a bit, then I said, hey, how about I go fruck your mom so your dad finally has a kid he can be proud of? He kinda deflated, and one of his friends said, that's not cool. His dad left when he was really young. I looked straight at the shit talker and said, yeah, I can see why. The look on his face made me feel a little bad, but whatever. 36. Not me, but someone I know worked for a water company in the 1990s. Her boss on site was a horrible woman named Sheila. Sheila always kept a pack of extra strong mints on her desk. This person would carefully take the top 3 mints and wipe them in her arse crack. Disgusting, but she felt it was deserved. So Sheila, if you're reading this, now you know. 37. A couple of Norwegian Liverpool fans were standing at a bus stop in the city center and asked me which bus to take to Anfield for the match. Being the Everton fan I am, I told them to get on the bus that was just pulling up. I said it was the soccer bus. It was actually going to Skelmersdale, a town about 15 miles in the opposite direction. I told them to just tap their card, pay the £2 fare, and that Anfield was the last stop. They got on, tapped their cards, and sat near the back. They waved at me all cheerful, and I was more than happy to wave back with a big smile. 38. I laughed when someone went to jail. For context, she stalked and harassed me for 3 years. She got locked up for something else, but when I heard about it, I felt like it was some well-earned karma. 39. I knew my ex was cheating on me. He was living in a rooming house. One day before I left, I took his toothbrush and scrubbed the toilet with it. I had to rinse it before putting it back because it was covered in crud. 40. Retail, 2003. There was this old lady who always rode her bike to our store. She showed up 10 minutes before closing every time. Then she'd walk every aisle looking for sale items we didn't have anymore, and then ask for rain checks for all of it. One night, she was still shopping about 15 minutes after we closed. I went outside to bring in the last of the carts, and on the way back in I popped her back tire with my box cutter. As soon as she left, we locked the doors. She put all her plastic bags on the handlebars and tried to ride away. Then she came back and knocked, asking if she could come in and buy a tire repair kit. I told her, nope, sorry, registers are shut down. She never came back. Oh well. 41. When I found out at 33 that my real dad was not who my mom said it was, not her husband who was my brother's dad and who abused me until I was 19, and that not only did she know, he knew, my real dad knew, and both sides of the family and all our family friends knew, basically everyone except me, I messaged her after not speaking to her for 4 years and sent the most vile, hateful message I have ever written. I cussed her the fruck out so badly that future historians will be able to see the burns. And she deserved every word, and more. But I'm not wasting the energy to say anything else to her. 42. I reported a horrible friend to the IRS as petty revenge. 43. I was really young, but I pushed my friend into a thorn bush because he accidentally tripped me. I still feel bad about it to this day. 44. There was a guy in my class. We were good friends, and in our senior year we were paired up to dance the waltz, so we spent a lot of time together. I liked him. One day he asked me about a girl 2 years younger than us who I knew pretty well. He said he liked her and wanted to get to know her. I got really mad and said some pretty mean things about her. I didn't fully lie, but I definitely exaggerated. I still feel really ashamed about it. 45. I suddenly cut off some good friends while I was grieving. I still regret it. 46. I farted on a kid's pillow once. 47. I rubbed poison ivy all over a girl's car, especially inside the door handles, because she was bullying a guy in our class for being gay. 48. I dumped out half of my mom's expensive hairspray and filled the bottle back up with water. She looked ridiculous for weeks. I forgot why I was even mad at her by the next day. 49. After I broke up with my ex, we stayed in touch for about another year. She made plans to see me, and I just ghosted her out of nowhere. Our relationship had been long and dragged out, and it was never going to work long term. Honestly, I wanted her to hate me so it would be over for good. I figured ghosting her would hurt her enough that she'd stop trying to talk to me. And it worked, LOL. It was long enough ago that it doesn't actively bother me anymore, but I do wish we had ended things on better terms. She's a great person and didn't deserve that. My pride kept me from reaching out for months. By the time I thought about it, she had moved on and gotten a new boyfriend, so I never really got closure. It was a childish choice on my part, but life goes on. 50. When I was 12, I kicked my brother, who was 7 at the time, into a wall because he tore up one of my posters. He wasn't seriously hurt, but he had a really nasty bruise for a long time. The second he started crying, I felt sick about what I'd done. Even years later, it still bothers me that I did that. That's all for now. Don't forget to subscribe so I can keep bringing you more of these stories. Thanks for sticking around till the end. See you next time, and take care.